Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 315.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here today because you are going to leave this episode not just inspired, you might even be a little excited, and more importantly, you're probably going to actually go get something done. Because I have someone with me today that, if you ask me, there's only basically like a 7% chance that he should even be here, but let alone he is going to be sharing information with you today that I believe is unique because it's a little different take on the whole real estate game. Have you ever thought about the idea of leverage? Yes, of course you have. You're real estate investors, but whom we are speaking with today is probably the guy that you pay. Not necessarily the guy that you're not necessarily the guy borrowing the money, but he's the guy lending the money. And he has managed to build his passive income via debt, which is, I think, is awesome. He's done over 700 deals, funded 200. He's been in the game since '01 himself, then transitions to full time in 2004. And you know what? You remember the whole thing that Steve Jobs had with pancreatic cancer? He had it too, but he's still here to talk to you and I. And more importantly, he's going to help you and I understand real estate from a completely different perspective. Help me welcome Mr. Josh Cantwell. Josh, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Jay. Thanks so much for that great introduction. Been looking forward to this. So thanks for having me on.
You are quite welcome. How is Ohio?
Ohio's great.
Yeah.
Ohio's great. It's the vacation capital of the world, if you know.
Oh, my bad. I thought California. Never mind. You're right. Yes. The budget for our marketing budget for tourism probably is just a little too low out here.
That's right. Ohio's fantastic, man. We get the seasons. We get the summer, fall, winter, and spring. The wintertime, I definitely want to get out of Dodge and come your way or come down in Florida. But we love it. I've been born and raised in Northeast Ohio. I've thought about moving probably 3 trillion times, but never have. and it's great, man. We're enjoying the fall weather. It's a football town. It's a football area. So the Buckeyes, the Browns suck, but high school football is amazing. We're coming up on another season of Cleveland Cavaliers basketball, which is my favorite sport. So we got a lot of good things going on here for sure.
No doubt. And just so you know, California has seasons too. They're called fire, flood, earthquake, and mudslide.
Nice.
Just in case you were wondering. So, with all of that being said, you being here for one of the first times, what I've got to do is I've got to ask you the same question that I ask most people when they're joining us for the first time. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right.
Nice.
So I tend to look at...
ready.
That's good. I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes. So what do I mean by that? I mean, you got Batman, Robin, and I guess if you're in Ohio, we're going to say LeBron, right? Before all of these people, I think superheroes have a lot in common with entrepreneurs. Occasionally we put on capes, we feel like we can fly, and we get dressed up and we go out there and provide a product or service to customers, and we feel like we're improving the quality of their life. And indeed we are. However, very similarly, before, Batman was, the Dark Knight and saving people in his own special way, and before Wonder Woman was doing her thing, they were pretty much just normal, everyday people. Every superhero, entrepreneur even, has an origin story. So what we want to know is before you bought and sold over, 700 properties, before you've been out there doing things like REO, short sales, lease options, before you've been able to build your own real estate fund, do all of the things that you have done, we want to know, who is Josh Cantwell?
Great question. So one thing I got to add to that is, did you know that Superman was created and founded in Cleveland?
Okay. See, there you go.
So you learn something new every time.
There it is.
Right?
There it is.
The Collinwood neighborhood, which is a near east side suburb, there was a guy and his buddy who were sitting around sketching out drawings of superheroes. And I think back sometime in the 1930s or 50s or whenever it was, they created and founded Superman, which is now what I've heard, the second most recognizable symbol in the world behind the cross of Jesus Christ. Is number 2 is Superman. So it was located, founded right here in Northeast Ohio. So before I put my cape on and became an entrepreneur, I was born and raised in a very just lower middle class family. But the one thing, Jay, that really I had the advantage of observing, watching, was a father who became an entrepreneur before my eyes. When I was in high school, my dad and my mom fought and scratched and clawed to put all three, me and my brothers, through private high school and private college, but they did not have an extra nickel to their name. And my dad, to his credit, when I was a junior in high school, my brothers were both in college, my dad spun off a business. He was part of an insurance company that did employee benefits, and he took a division of that company, bought out his partner, created his own business. And I watched my dad grind as an entrepreneur. I watched him work, sometimes 6 days a week and 12 hours a day and drive and go see customers. And I also saw at that time my dad build a business from having basically 2 employees to 45. I was able to witness him, also find time for us. He came to my baseball games, and when I was in college and I played, small Division III college football, we had games outside of the state. He was one of the guys that was always there. And so somehow, some way, I witnessed him work hard, think, strategize, but also be an incredible father and an incredibly balanced businessman at the same time. And so without him and without that very close ability for me to watch him and observe him, he didn't know, when I was a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old and a 22-year-old, he didn't know that I was observing him, but I was each and every day. And it's had a huge impact on what I've accomplished on my life. So I've had that very unique experience and a luxury I think everybody would love to have.
Indeed. So basically, you would say your dad would be a great example of not having to choose, because I know there's a thought process out there that, hey, I can either be great at business or I can be a great father. I can't be both.
Oh, no question about it, Jay. I think every person wants everything. They want it all, right? You don't want to have a Kmart marriage. You don't want to have a Kmart, you don't want to be a Kmart father. You don't want to have a Kmart business. You want to have the best. You want to have the best of everything. You want to have the best marriage, the best relationships, be the best dad or mother, be the best entrepreneur, have the best real estate business. And so when I do get together with my dad still today, and we meet once a month and we do a retreat together, we get together and we share ideas about business and we pray and we just think and we talk. And my dad, it reminds me, he says, do you want a Kmart life? Do you want a Kmart lifestyle, or do you want to be the best? And it doesn't always mean massive amount of success or money. It just means, having whatever you envision to be the best of your life, to go and try to accomplish that and to really never settle. I think his comment about having a Kmart marriage or a Kmart business or a Kmart, relationship with your kids is really about settling. That's what he's trying to instill in us. And so that's what's really resonated with me.
I'm wondering if anyone who's working at a Kmart is going to give us a call.
No,
anyway.
I don't want to say that disrespectfully at all, but I think we all know there's a difference between, Kmart and, let's say, Apple Computers, or Kmart and Nordstrom's, or Kmart and, shopping on Rodeo Drive. We all know that, right? And so I'm not trying to be disrespectful at all, but we know the difference between, average and elite. That's, I guess, the the connection my dad was trying to make.
No, totally understood. It was more funny because in the way that you use Kmart, I tend to use Walmart. So
Gotcha.
it's completely fine. I just thought it was funny that you picked, a similar company and same industry type of thing to make that illustration. So, all right. So you're playing ball, but how do you go from playing ball to investor? Like that's like that's not exactly related.
But you're right. But I think I was very fortunate at a very young age because of my experience watching my father to know, even though in my late teens and my early 20s, I had the sense of confidence that I could work for myself, create my own future, never really rely on anybody else. Because if my dad could quit his job and start a business while he was putting somebody through private high school and 2 kids through college, I thought, well, heck, if he could do that and he could try it, why do I have to go get a regular job? Why do I have to start as an employee? So I actually got my Series 6, 66, and 63 licenses as a financial advisor when I was 21 years old. And I think my dad was absolutely floored when he helped me get through college and pay for college, and I paid for some of it. And when I graduated from college and got an all-commission job as a financial advisor. And my dad thought I was nuts, but I looked at the guys in the financial planning business. I looked at guys when I would go to these conferences when I was an intern, when I was in college, and I saw guys in their 20s driving Porsches. And I saw guys in their 30s driving Ferraris. And I saw guys in their 50s and 60s making many millions of dollars as financial advisors working on these huge accounts. So I got exposure to entrepreneurialism. I got exposure to big thinking at a very young age. And I wish everybody could get that exposure. If I could repackage college or high school, the one thing I would add that I think our education system fails is exposure to what's possible. It's just all about the textbooks. It's all about Common Core math. It's all about this and that. They don't expose people. So I think a lot of people fail simply because of lack of exposure. So for me, Jay, it was exposure that it got me into the game much quicker. And so I became a financial advisor. Long story short with that, Jay, some of my biggest, best, most successful financial planning clients, they didn't give me all their money to put in the stock market. You know what they did with it?
I have an idea.
They bought real estate. They owned restaurants. They didn't own restaurants. They owned the buildings. They owned rental properties and apartment buildings. And so I took notice, and I bought my first investment property in 2001. It was a 2-family house. I moved into it. My mom said, Josh, you're 23 years old. You're 24 years old. You're going to be a landlord? And I thought to her, Mom, yeah, well, what else would I do? I can live in this house with my mortgage paid by my upstairs tenant and my buddy who's going to kick me a couple $100 a month and stay with me on the lower floor. And I can live in this house for $100 a month. Why wouldn't I be a landlord? It just didn't register to me that I would do anything else.
Nice. I'm loving this because there's some things that you're mentioning that and I know in both of our businesses, we've had the opportunity of working with a lot of people who are getting started and they're encountering a number of challenges. But there are 2 things that I think that I don't think anyone's ever mentioned that you did that I want to just highlight for a second, because you said that there was a sense of confidence, that you were given this sense of confidence that you could work for yourself and create your own future, and that you were exposed to bigger thinking at an early age. And I guess my question really is when it comes to that sense of confidence, most we'll say the traditional path, go to school, get good grades, get a job, hate it, then look for something new. It doesn't come till much, much later. How does one develop that sense of confidence when maybe, we don't have an entrepreneurial father to go, yeah, you know what he did, so I got to at least try?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, Jay. And I think the first thing that somebody can do when they really are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or a real estate investor or an entrepreneur of any kind is to, first of all, tell themselves that they're going to have scars and they're going to have challenges and things that they fail at. Yes. And I think it's becoming comfortable with failure and failing fast and knowing that they're going to have scars. You mentioned I'm a pancreatic cancer survivor. I have a 12-inch incision in my stomach. I have a huge scar. But that's not the most important scar that I have in my life. It's really the scars, it's the struggles of being in business, and at a young age, just telling myself, like, I'm not going to know everything, but I'm going to go anyway. I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm totally comfortable with that. My dad had filed for bankruptcy far before he ever created his business. And so I think it was a comfort level with failure more so than even my goal of being successful that gave me confidence. It was not that I was not afraid of failure. I think so many people, I don't know if it's because they're afraid of what their opinions of what their friends and family will think. I don't know if they're afraid of bankruptcy. I don't know if they're afraid of digging out of a hole, a financial abyss that they might. But I think if an entrepreneurs, the first thing they say is, what's the worst that can possibly happen? And then become really comfortable with the worst possible scenario. I think that would allow them to springboard into entrepreneurialism much faster, because they'll realize that the worst case scenario really isn't all that bad. And the worst case scenario is far better than going and getting a job and working for someone else.
Right. So let me ask this question then. Would you consider your experience with cancer then to be an asset now?
Oh, no question, Jay. I think that's a super insightful question. And it's absolutely changed my life, because while I was fighting cancer, my real estate business was falling apart. I'll explain that in a minute. But my son was 2 months old. My daughters were 1 and 2 years old. I had just gotten married within the last 4 or 5 years. So I had young family, new marriage, 3 very small children, and a real estate business that's coming unwound because I was reliant upon me in the field carrying all the weight. I wasn't leveraged up properly with staff and with funding and those kind of things. And so my exposure, my experience of almost going bankrupt, and my experience of fighting cancer, losing 50 pounds, surviving a deadly disease is absolutely an asset, because it's changed my outlook on everything. It's changed my demand of myself and my business to have balance. Mm-hmm. It's changed my demand of how I'm going to work and how much I'm going to work and what I'm going to allow myself to do. Right. It's forced me, Jay, to realize that my to-do list is never going to go away. Right. So I'm only going to focus on the things that really matter. Right. And I'm going to find ways to delegate and get rid of, or just not do the things that are on my list that just don't make that big of an impact. And so it's a huge asset.
One of the most freeing things that I can do, I know for myself personally, is when my kids get home, like from school or wherever, is to intentionally do everything with them, knowing that there's stuff that needs to be done, but it's like, whatever. It'll get done later, because this here right now, time with my children is significantly more precious. And, absolutely. And it's interesting how it takes things like this to bring that to the surface for us. And I guess my question then would be, because I know someone, I've often said that, when we're afraid of moving forward or doing something new, any excuse will do, and we'll latch on to it. So to the person for that says, well, Josh, I've not had cancer, or to the people that say to me, well, Jay, I've never had to squat and bank own property and all this other stuff. Can I still do it? What would you say to that person?
I would say there's going to be very few people, Jay. I know a lot about your story, and I've looked up your stuff and listened to a number of your podcasts. I know what you've been through. I know where I've been. I don't think many people are really ever going to be in a situation that I was in, being diagnosed with a deadly disease and having, all these problems. So I think the first thing I would say would be, if people are just kind of in an average circumstance right now, or maybe they have a little bit of credit card debt, or maybe they don't have enough income, they're actually far better off than I was back in 2011. Donald Trump Jr. spoke at one of my seminars recently, and he told me a story about his dad. He said, whether you like Trump Sr. as a political candidate or not, that's not what we're here to talk about. But what he said was, he was walking down the street with his dad one time in New York, and he saw a guy who, was homeless and was sitting on a corner of a street in New York, and said, you know what? This is back when Trump was almost, $1 billion in debt and on the verge of bankruptcy. Said, that guy right there is worth $900 million, worth $900 million more than me.
Wow.
And that resonated with me. I thought, there's always somebody that's going to be worse off. And for those people who are looking at getting into being an entrepreneur, starting a business, starting in real estate, and you have just a, 5 or 10 or 20,000 of credit card debt, that's a small scar compared to what a guy like you, Jay, has been through, what I've been through. It's a small scar. So, when I think about being successful in business, like, how many scars can I accumulate?
Right.
Because that's the process that leads to ultimate success.
What's interesting though, okay, because I too subscribe to the same philosophy here, and yet we invest so much time in trying to avoid that process. Like, I don't know about you, but I get approached all the time. Jay, can you tell me what to do so I don't get hurt, so I don't make a mistake, so this doesn't happen? And I'm like, there's only so much of that before it's like, look, just go make one. You're not going to die from and choosing a property.
Right.
Does that happen to you?
Absolutely, Jay. When when I was younger, I had 2 older brothers, and they used to just beat the living snot out of me. My brother Mark, I still remember to this day, right? I'm 40 years old. He's 42. We're actually own some businesses together. And I remember when we were teenagers, he would say, he would get me like in a pretzel move, and he would beat on me, and my brother Matt would beat on me, and they would like give me, a noogie, and they'd rub my head and hurt me, and just things brothers do. But my brother Mark would always say, enjoy the pain. Enjoy the pain. And he was saying it as a joke because they were kicking the snot out of me at that time. But I remember that now as a 40-year-old. And so when I was going through surgery, when I was recovering financially, when I started my businesses, of course we want to avoid risk. We want shortcuts. We want an A to Z system. But no matter what, every single person who's using that system, Jay, if they use your system or they use my system, even if they follow it to a T, everybody who follows our systems is different, meaning they're coming to the table with different baggage, different past experiences, different relationships. So they're all going to have different levels of pain. They're going to have different levels of scars. And so when it comes to that, I would say enjoy the pain, look for the shortcuts, avoid risk as much as possible. But no matter who you are, no matter what you do, there's going to be some challenges based on how much emotional, financial baggage you bring to the table.
Indeed. And over time, you're just going to have to develop those skills to be able to deal with them. But through this process, also, I think there's a process of discovery. And that's kind of what I want to ask you is, I know for example, as we talk about superheroes and entrepreneurs, superheroes always go through this transition period. It's like, cool, they're normal. Then all of a sudden, things occur, challenges come into their life in some way that help them understand their unique gift, that they have one, and then they're presented with the choice. How am I going to use this unique gift? How am I going to go out there and be an asset to the world? Am I going to choose good or evil? So I guess my question to you becomes, what were those things? What was that inflection point where you go, you know what? I can do this. And not only can I do this, I'm going to do this big.
Yeah, Jay, great question, and I appreciate you asking because I think this is a reflection point in my life, and it's a reflection point for everybody who would listen to this. And I can tell you, I remember walking through the halls of the Cleveland Clinic, getting prepared for my surgery 2 weeks before my surgery, and going through a surgery that I didn't even know if I would make it through. My surgeon was confident he would be. He was an elite surgeon. He was confident that I would make it through, but he said there's risks, and I had to sign disclosures that I might not make it and get my financial and personal life in order in case I didn't make it. But I remember, Jay, 2 weeks before my surgery, walking through the halls of the Cleveland Clinic on the phone with my brother, and we were buying a property. And we were getting a private lender to fund that deal. And the property was on Sunny Acres Drive. We bought it. We outsourced the improvements while I was in the hospital. I never saw the property. My brother Mark only saw the property a few times. we were able to successfully renovate it, launch it, and sell it while I had a 12-inch incision in my stomach, and I had lost 50 pounds for my surgery. And my surgery was in November 2011. And then in April 2012, my surgeon, Dr. Walsh, said to me, Josh, you're cancer-free, you're healthy, you put weight back on, you can get back to work pretty much full time. And at that same moment, we launched and sold that property on Sunny Acres Drive, and we made a $40,000 profit check. And I thought, I've been doing this all wrong. For the last 5, 6, 7 years before this, I had been wholesaling properties, and I had, done a bunch of short sale flips and lease option flips. I was primarily a wholesaler of various different types of real estate. And I had avoided risk, and I didn't really educate myself about funding and finance and how to get capital and how to understand the securities laws. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, I thought, well, that was much easier and a much bigger profit than these other, quick cash wholesale deals, which was great. I had made a name for myself. I had made money. We had started a publishing company, a software business, all based off of wholesaling. And I got to the point where I thought, in April, I thought, well, what if I could just do that again? And we did. And I got another property, and I got another private lender, and they gave me a loan from their self-directed IRA. And I got the capital, and we outsourced the improvements, and we launched and we sold it. And I thought, well, hey, if I could do that again. And then we started doing 2 of those big flips at a time, and then 4 of those big flips at a time, and then 6, and then 8, and then 10. And then we got to the point where we were managing 15 of these big flips at a time and buying 3 to 6 a month and selling 3 to 6 a month. And then all that happened as a growth process from 2012 to 2014. And it really all started, Jay, with buying one property, getting one private investor, getting one private lender, and doing a deal while I was having surgery and recovering from pancreatic cancer. And I thought, if I could do that again, and as I talk to entrepreneurs today and real estate entrepreneurs today, I thought, if I can do it under those circumstances, anybody can do this business. Anybody. And I used real estate in these big flips to help me recover financially as well, because this hit me like a ton of bricks. I had other businesses that I had started and obligations that I had, and not enough revenue to pay those bills. And real estate and flipping properties and getting private capital and doing that, and then teaching it and creating softwares and a lending company, all of that started with that one deal on Sunny Acres Drive. And so that was my inflection point. That was the point in my life where I thought, let me go back to my financial planning roots. Let me understand the finance side of real estate, the debt side, the lending side. That is it. And today, Jay, what I tell people is funding equals freedom.
Yeah.
Funding equals freedom. Because if I can get the funding and I can control real estate by controlling the funding, I can control everything else. I can control the acquisition of real estate. I can control the sale of it. I can control the structure of it. I can control the team that runs it. I can control the renting out of it or the cash flow of it if I control the finance side of it. And my entire world changed as a result of my surgery and that one deal.
Indeed, indeed. Now, do you find it a little irony that property is on Sunny Acres Drive?
Yeah. We did 2 deals on Sunny Acres Drive. So that was the second one. So it was the second one. We went back to that street. We found another great deal, another distressed property. Absolutely. And I'll never forget Sunny Acres Drive.
Sunny Acres Drive. I think there's irony there, which is kind of funny. But at the same time, it illustrates a very important concept, in my opinion, because what it comes down to is that the thought process that goes behind what you currently enjoy came about because of necessity, not because you weren't necessarily looking. You weren't like going, "Hey, business is great. Let me make it better." It was, I have a problem and I need a solution. And, and for lack of a better way of saying it, you were kind of backed into a corner of figuring out, how can I earn money while I physically can't move and walk and do the things that I would normally do? But here's the question. How on earth did you convince, because I'm assuming the private lender knew your medical condition. So if I was to ask you right now, like literally right now, what is stopping you? What's in the way? Why haven't you done a deal yet? What are you going to tell me? I mean, seriously, what would you say as the reason? This is the one thing that's in the way, and it's why I can't do a piece of real estate. I hope, if nothing else, because of all of the hundreds of entrepreneurs that we have been able to bring to you, you have found a way to work around whatever it is you feel, whatever resource, whatever skill set, whatever knowledge, whatever training, whatever you felt like you were missing. I'm pretty confident that by now, if you've listened to our episodes, you know how to go get that something that you felt like was missing. Because at the end of the day, one of our entrepreneurs that you've had the privilege of listening to, just by remembering to download, gave you the secrets to how to overcome. And obviously today's guest is no different, and I definitely want to get you to his answer. But if you're looking for some additional things you might be able to take advantage of, and some additional ways, some additional creativity to get around some of the missing resources for your business, just go over to cashflowdiary.com/free book, cashflowdiary.com/free book. Why? Because there is a copy of my book, Cashflow Diary, 10 Steps to Creating Wealth in Any Economy. And, well, it'll help you with some ideas. Now, let's go find out what the private lender was thinking when he would give his money to someone who is in Josh's condition. So how on earth did you convince, because I think I know the answer, but how did you convince them that, hey, look, I might die, but you still need to fund this?
Yeah, great question. And the answer is, and this is one of the 4 characteristics that I believe that real estate entrepreneurs and elite real estate entrepreneurs have, which is they have to have the ability to explain why they or their team is the right people and the right team to get the job done. And I was able to articulate to that private lender that this was a great deal. We bought it at the right price. We could renovate it for the right price. It had loads of equity in it. But I was able to articulate that my team was the right team to get the job done, and that he was going to get paid whether I made it through or not. And he understood. He understood the deal. In this particular case, he understood that my fallback position was my brother in case something did happen to me. But I was able to explain that we had the right contractor, the right deal, the right team to get the job done, and I didn't need to be there, boots on the ground every single day, to make that deal happen. And that's also where the inflection point came for me, where because I wasn't through the mother of all invention is necessity, right? So right. I couldn't be there. If I wanted to drive there, I couldn't drive myself. I did not have permission to drive a car. I had lost 50 pounds. I had, sweated night after night after night, fighting, my recovery and an infection and all these things. I physically could not go to that house no matter what.
Right.
So I had to create a team that and a process that would get that job done no matter what. And I was able to convince him of that. And that's one of the elite characteristics of elite entrepreneurs, is the ability to articulate that they or their team is the right team to get the job done. And I was able to convince him of that. Even with the circumstances that I was in, he bought into it, and we fulfilled on what we promised.
And that's exactly what I thought you were going to say. And I wanted you to say it because so many people, get stuck in this real estate game because they go, well, Jay, why is anyone going to give me money? I haven't done anything. I don't know this and I don't know that. And I'm like, it's not about you. It's about your ability to help a team execute the vision and strategy anyway. And that's exactly what you were forced to do. And by virtue of doing so, you then discovered, hey, if I can do it that way once, what would happen if I did it again? And then it became common business practice. Whereas I'm going to assume today, it's been a long time since you visited a property.
Yeah, I get out in the field still very, very, very regularly. But, the sort of fourth stage what I feel like real estate investors go through 4 stages. The 4th stage is where they're a true CEO and they're able to run their business from a dashboard. They're able to run their business from data and have the team make key decisions based off of data, based off of pure metrics, statistics, what's going on with the deal. They can tell purely by numbers. And today I'm able to manage my business as a CEO from a dashboard and make decisions about investments all over the country. We have investments right now in 23 different states, and I'm able to make investment decisions purely based off of a dashboard, off of data, off of information. And most of the properties that we're involved in, I have not seen. I might have seen a picture or an appraisal or gotten the data that I need to make proper decisions. And that's really where people grow from needing cash, building up cash reserves, primarily being a wholesaler or being a realtor with very little risk, getting income or commission or wholesaling fees, to moving up to stage 2 as a rehabber, focusing on big profits, building their team, focusing on getting funding, to step 3, which is passive cash flow and having assets that pay them, to then ultimately stage 4, which is running your business as a CEO from data and from information. And then, that deal that I did, nearly 5 years ago, was one of the first deals that I really did without ever seeing it, without really going there, and making decisions based off of data purely out of necessity.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, holy cow, well, if I could do that in the circumstances that I'm in, why wouldn't I just do this all the time? And that's what I think. If I could go back, Jay, and give people advice or tell people, if there's one thing they could learn from my experience fighting cancer that they could learn without having to fight cancer, is to quickly and as fast as possible move to building the team that runs the business and make decisions based off of that team and off of that data.
Nice and well said. Now, with that being the case, though, you've also made transitions not only through the, stages, as you will, but also through the types of transactions you do, to where today you have a fund and you're putting most of your energy, I would say, a lot of your energy into funding other deals, providing, but using debt as the means of cash flow as opposed to the property itself.
That's right. So what basically happened, Jay, as my recovery from cancer and I started doing lots of successful real estate transactions, and I used my past history as a financial advisor to really talk with potential private lenders and create relationships with private lenders, I basically was able to recruit far more money than I really wanted to use. I didn't want to get to the point where I was doing 30 or 40 rehabs at one time. That just wasn't in the cards for me.
That didn't even sound fun.
What was in the cards was I had access to the capital. I was able to convince people that I could use their capital and they could get a great double-digit rate of return, whether it was through a note and mortgage or whether it was through a fund or whether it was through a cash flowing property or a rehab. I was good at convincing people that real estate was an awesome alternative to the stock market. And in 2014, I thought, well, I have far more money than I need, and I better get this money in play, or these investors are going to go somewhere else. They're going to take their money and they're going to go to the next guy, or they're going to put it back in the stock market. And I had the idea of creating a private equity fund where we would underwrite and originate and make private money loans and hard money loans to real estate investors. And then we would sell or move those investments, those loans, into our private equity fund. And so our fund, for those people that understand mutual funds, mutual fund is basically a pool of investors that own a pool of stocks and bonds. Well, our fund is basically a pool of investors that own a pool of performing notes and mortgages. And we have the debt. We finance deals for real estate investors now across the country. There's only a few small states that we don't operate in. So I looked at that business, which aligned with Jay, with what I thought my unique skills were, which is the ability to talk about money. It aligned with my skill of investing in real estate, but it also created a very scalable business where other people, I could coach them, teach them to go find the deals, go source the deals, bring us great deals, and we could coach them through those deals as well as provide them the funding. And all of a sudden now I was able to handle 100 assets at a time, 200 assets at a time because of the team I was able to build, where I couldn't do 100 or 200 rehabs at a time in my own local market.
You know, when you say 100 rehabs at a time, that just sounds like stress. That's all
Right.
Just so you know, that's all I have. Like that makes my brain short circuit immediately when you say that, because the amount of moving parts, as you well know, is insane. So that I totally get it. And I understand, and I see how you've elevated the value that you're able to provide to the marketplace, because you're able to serve that many more people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let me ask you this. When it comes to the debt game, when someone is looking to it, because I often believe some of the, I've done a number of notes, and I've done some of what you're referring to, and I believe some of the smartest investors are actually note holders, because they have to be so well versed in so many different things to be able to properly understand the risk. And I'm just curious if you believe that your prior time as, wholesaler and all these other things helps you be better at what you're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely, Jay. No question. I mean, I went through these 4 stages where I was, marketing to motivated sellers, getting properties under contract, wholesaling them, doing lease options, wholesaling those. I was doing short sales and selling those, quick cash, quick turn properties. So I know intimately well how to market to motivated sellers of all different kinds and all different kinds of lists. And then, doing rehabs myself, and we've done, we're still doing 2 to 4 to 6 big rehab deals each and every month, where we're buying 2 to 4 to 6, we're selling 2 to 4 to 6. My brother Mark and I run that together. My brother Mark is our boots on the ground. I provide all the marketing and all the finance. And that allows me to keep a very close ear to the ground of what's going on. But it's absolutely that evolution of then when I moved into stage 3, which was the passive income game. Some guys move into owning apartments or owning multifamily or 2 units or 3 units, duplexes and things like that. To me, just because of my preference for finance, I decided to turn and be on the other side of the table, where I could work with investors and have a pool of them use those dollars to make notes and mortgages, and we could essentially earn a management fee. And so I don't think I know for sure that I could not do what I'm doing today if I had not first wholesale properties. I used to own a real estate brokerage with 10, 12, 15 realtors. If I had not done hundreds of rehabs, there's no way I could be doing today what I'm doing without that experience.
So, okay. And let's talk about the whole process of gaining experience, though, involves, obviously, as we mentioned earlier, failure and mistakes. So what would you say then, knowing what you know today, has been your most profitable mistake?
My most profitable mistake? That's a great question. My most profitable mistake. One of the mistakes that I made, this is going back a little while, I haven't lost money on very many deals, Jay. I've done hundreds and hundreds of deals. I lost a lot of money on one property, and ultimately it came down to the underwriting. Whether you're buying property to fix it and flip it, or whether you're lending on it, when you're evaluating that deal, you're essentially underwriting it. It's the same. It's one and the same. Whether you're evaluating it to buy it and flip it yourself, or evaluating it to provide a loan, you're essentially evaluating, underwriting. It's one and the same. We did a deal, Jay, where we were making a deal in Shaker Heights, Ohio. And people that are from Northeast Ohio will know that. If you don't know Shaker Heights, Ohio, what you should remember about Shaker Heights, Ohio is it was the hometown of John D. Rockefeller, the richest man in modern time, once lived in Shaker Heights, Ohio. In Shaker Heights, Ohio, there's a set of railroad tracks that cuts right through Shaker Heights. And on the left side of the tracks, a little bit closer to the inner city, the properties are worth far less. The right side of the property, on the right side of the tracks, is where Rockefeller used to live. The property values are worth a lot more. And I once got a property under contract and bought this property. And 2-3 weeks after we closed on it, I bought it from a realtor. The owner was a realtor. She faxed over a set of disclosures that said that there was a double homicide in the house. Actually, a son had a mental illness, had killed his parents with a shotgun.
Wow.
And I didn't know to ask those questions. I didn't ask the realtor for disclosures, which is a very important thing to ask for. I didn't know that it was on the wrong side of the tracks. It was basically a haunted house. And that deal still sits with me today. The lesson, Jay, although I think I lost $80,000 on that deal. The lessons I learned from it, number one, was just proper due diligence, underwriting, review, evaluation, asking lots of questions. And number two was that not to let that one big failure, that one scar that we've talked about, stop me. And a lot of people would have gone through that deal and it would have blown up their life and they would have stopped. They've been licking their wounds still today.
Right.
I did that deal. I closed on it, lost a bunch of money, and said, you know what? That's an education. It's an expensive education that I cannot forget. So what are the lessons I learned from it? One of them is proper due diligence. And I think long term, now several years removed from that deal, was not to let those failures stop me. Use them as a platform, a springboard to go do the next deal. The next deal will get easier as you have those scars and those mistakes.
Yep. Though, I was just kind of thinking that there's a lot of, events and experience events that are hyper profitable, where they're, between things like, CrossFit and mud runs and all these other things, that house has to be useful at least during Halloween, right?
Yeah. Right. And the people who bought it, they didn't care that we disclosed to them that there was a double homicide and we had renovated it and it was beautiful and they didn't care. And we thought it was going to sell for $350 and it sold for $250. It was on the wrong side of the tracks. If it was on the other side of the tracks, I don't even know if the homicide would have hurt us that bad, but it was on the wrong side of the tracks. And for whatever reason, people just, it's probably a great haunted house now. I imagine I'll have to go back and visit and see what they got going on. It's almost Halloween season.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I'm like, hey, let's turn that, frown upside down, lemons out of lemonade, right? Seasonal money and see what we can do. Put some stuff out, make it an experience. Come. Yeah, I think it would lend itself to things like that. But that's part of the life, and I appreciate you being willing, as I said, to share your most profitable mistake. So I know that a number of people who have been listening are intrigued. They want to find out more. Maybe they think they have a deal that you would actually fund. What would you say is the best way for them to track you down? And more or less, tell us how to stalk you, Josh.
Yeah, you could stalk me. We have a big internet presence. Our main core website is strategicrealestatecoach.com. We have a bunch of amazing free information there, free ebooks. We have a great free ebook called 55 Simple and Powerful Ways to Find Great Real Estate Investments. Another free ebook that's called Funded, How to Get Asset-Based Funding for Your Real Estate Deals. So strategicrealestatecoach.com is a great place to start. Just grab one of our free ebooks. You'll jump onto our email list and, jump into one of our free classes. At this point, Jay, we only fund deals for our students. We actually are not really advertising to the public. We're not out there as a hard money lender or a private lender. We really only work with people that we have relationships with. Mm-hmm. And we do provide, true asset-based funding. We look at the deal primarily. We do look at people's, their financial, background, their financial information, but the deal is what makes the most sense for us. Are they going to do a profitable deal? And we actually partner with our people. We, do profit shares and equity participation loans with them. It's a little bit outside of the box, so it's not like we're a hard money lender that just charges 4 points and 14%. Go do the deal and you're on your own. We much more like to partner with our students and our clients and our friends and do deals with them. So great place to track us down is strategicrealestatecoach.com. You can look me up on Facebook as well. Excellent.
So now, as we wind down, I've got one more question for you, because I also know that's one of the individuals that is listening. They need to hear you answer, because your answer will resonate with them in such a way that will hopefully inspire them to go take some action. So, here's what I know, that somebody's listening right now is, they're possibly standing in front of the superhero outfit store right now. They are thinking, man, what cape should I wear? Or, what is this going to look like when it's all said and done? It's going to be so great. And they have all of these grand visions of moving themselves into a completely different tax bracket and helping tons of people. But yet at the same time, in the back of their head, there's that voice. And I know you know that voice. You've dealt with that voice in more ways than most. And that voice, it plagues us. And for some people listening, they're related to that voice. My question to you is, even though they have all of those things going on, even though life can crop up its head and try to pretend to be in the way, my question to you is if you knew that they were actually going to do in the next 72 hours what you suggested, what would you tell them to do?
Jay, what resonates most with me is I think far too many people walk on the face of this earth thinking that everybody else is a superhero, and they're not. Wow. Everybody else has life figured out, and they don't. Everybody else is confident and has their crap together, and I don't.
Right.
I think far too many people, what they do is they give everybody else credit. They give everybody else the benefit of the doubt without giving themselves the benefit of the doubt. You know what? I can be a super successful real estate investor. I can be a superhero. I can be the person that helps other people out. I can change the financial legacy of my family. There's nobody out there telling them that they can't be Superman. They can't go from Clark Kent to Superman. There's nobody else. There's nobody out there really telling them. It's this little voice inside their head where they're convincing themselves they either can or can't do it. And I would simply say to just trick yourself and tell yourself, I'm going to step into the phone booth and just see what the hell happens. Step into the phone booth. I'm going to put the superhero cape on. I'm going to try it out and see if it fits. And just give it 30, 60, 90, 180, 360 days and go and put your best effort in. Try the cape on. Try the superhero outfit on. And just go. What do you have to lose? And I know there's one person in particular in my personal life, I'm not going to name their name. They walk around through life thinking that everybody else is thinner, better looking, more successful. Everybody else has their crap together. And this one person I'm thinking of in my own life is constantly telling themselves, well, they're better than me. They have it figured out, and I don't. And they don't realize how talented and how successful they can be and how talented they already are and how many gifts they have. So I would say, Jay, just give yourself some credit. Why not you? Why can't you be that successful superhero?
Nice and well said. Because I think all of us have greatness inside. We just occasionally need some heavenly sandpaper, if you will, to scrub and reveal it.
Right. I like it. Heavenly sandpaper. I like that one. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I borrowed it. A friend of mine says that all the time. He's like, that heavenly sandpaper. That's really what he calls it. And it gives me the perspective that I need when we're going through challenging times. So, sir, I definitely appreciate the things that you bring to the table, the passion, the focus, the joy, the dedication to family, and most importantly, being able to overcome challenges and being willing to share what it is that you know. Thank you for investing here with us at the Cashflow Diary today.
Absolutely, Jay. Thanks so much for having me on, man. I really enjoyed it, and look forward to just, building a relationship with you. And thanks so much again for inviting me on today.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean today? That means you know that there's an ebook in your future. There's probably 2, maybe even 3. Who knows? You can no longer say, well, Jay, I don't know anyone that can help me. Well, we have hundreds of episodes of people that can help you. And here's another one given to you today. You made it this far. You were committed to the end of this episode. Now take the next step. because on the other side, you might find out you can fly. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.